You want to go to college? Good. Then pay for it yourself. My mother said those words without even looking at me. She was holding a check. A big one. $120,000. She slid it across the table. But not to me. To my younger sister. Same table. Same parents. Same night. Different daughter. My name is Hannah Parker. I was 18 that night. And that was the moment I understood something I had felt my whole life. I was not the favorite. We lived in a large white house on Maple Street in a quiet town in Connecticut. From outside, we looked like a perfect family. My father worked in finance. My mother organized charity events and brunches. My sister, Lily, was beautiful, confident, and always smiling. And then there was me. I was quiet. I liked books more than parties. I worked hard in school. I stayed out of trouble. I didn't ask for much. But somehow, I was always less. Lily got piano lessons. I got told we couldn't afford them. Lily got a new car for her 17th birthday. I got Dad's old laptop. The fridge in our kitchen was covered with Lily's photos. Cheerleading pictures. Awards. Certificates. Smiling faces. Once, in 10th grade, I put my honor roll certificate right in the center of the fridge. When I came home from school, it was gone. The fridge was getting messy, a mom said. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just gone. But I still believed one thing. When it came to college, things would be fair. I worked hard. I got good grades. I earned a partial scholarship to a state university. It covered half my tuition. I just needed help with the rest. That dinner night, I printed everything neatly in a folder. My scholarship letter. The tuition breakdown. A small plan showing how I would work part-time. I wasn't asking them to pay for everything. Just some help. Mom didn't even open the folder. You need to learn independence, as she said. I stared at her. You're paying for Lily's full tuition. Lily's situation is different. How? Mom sipped her wine slowly. She has potential that needs support. You're strong. You'll figure it out. Strong. That word felt like punishment. I looked at my father. He didn't look at me. He just cut his chicken and said nothing. Lily stayed quiet. She didn't defend me. She didn't even meet my eyes. This conversation is over, a mom said. And that was that. That night, I packed one suitcase. I didn't cry. Not in that house. At 5 a.m, I left my house key on the kitchen counter. When I stepped outside, I saw my father sitting in his car in the driveway. He saw me. We looked at each other through the windshield. 3 seconds. He didn't get out. I didn't knock. I walked to the bus stop. That was the last morning I lived in that house. College was not a dream. It was survival. My dorm room had a thin mattress and no curtains. The window didn't close fully. Cold air came in at night. I worked 3 jobs. Dishwasher at a small Italian restaurant. Cashier at a gas station. Cleaning classrooms on weekends. Some nights I slept 4 hours. Some nights less. My hands cracked from soap and cold water. I fell asleep during lectures. I called my mother once. Maybe I thought she would miss me. You made your choice, as she said. 7 seconds. Then she hung up. Lily sent one text. Mum says you're being dramatic. Just apologize and come home. Apologize. For wanting help. That was the last time I spoke to either of them for years. Freshman year nearly broke me. My grades dropped. I almost lost my scholarship. One professor noticed. Dr. Michael Reed. He called me after class. You look exhausted, he said gently. I told him everything. Not all the pain. Just enough. Instead of pitying me, he gave me an opportunity. A paid research position in his department. It wasn't much money, but it allowed me to quit the overnight gas station job. Because of my work. Not because I was easy. Not because I smiled for photos. Because I earned it. Meanwhile, I saw Lily's life online. New clothes. Trips. A brand new Audi with a red bow on top. Caption: a best parents ever. I stopped hoping things would change. I stopped waiting for fairness. I made a promise to myself. If I ever built something in my life, it would be mine. Not given. Not gifted. Earned. By senior year, I graduated with honors. There were thousands of families in the stadium that day. Mine wasn't there. My best friend Emma held up a handmade sign with my name on it. That was enough. After graduation, I got a job at a small healthcare tech company. I worked harder than anyone else. I learned everything. And by 24, I had an idea. A software system to help small clinics manage patient records. Something affordable. Something smart. I used my savings and a small loan. I built it from scratch. I named the company ClearPath Systems. The first year was hard. The second year was harder. But by year 5, we had investors. We had employees. We had clients. Real ones. And one of them was a growing medical group led by a man named Daniel Brooks. I didn't know then that Daniel was engaged to my sister. I didn't know that 9 years after that dinner, I would stand at the back of Lily's wedding. Watching. Waiting. And that one word would bring everything down. 9 years passed before I heard my sister's voice again. I almost didn't answer the call. The number was unknown, but something in my chest tightened when I saw the Connecticut area code. I stepped out of my office and answered. Hello. There was silence for 2 seconds. Then, Hannah. It was Lily. Her voice sounded the same. Soft. Sweet. Careful. But I wasn't 18 anymore. Yes, I said calmly. Oh my God, it's been so long. How are you? I've tried to find your number forever. That was a lie. My number hadn't changed in 5 years. I'm fine, I said. What do you need? She laughed nervously. You always were direct. I waited. She didn't call to reconnect. She didn't call to apologize. I knew that. I'm getting married, as she finally said. I felt something twist inside me. Oh, I replied. Congratulations. His name is Daniel. He runs a medical investment company. You'd like him. He's very smart. Smart. Interesting choice of word. That's great, I said. Another pause. Then her tone shifted slightly. Hannah. I actually wanted to ask you something. There it was. I'm listening. So, Daniel is expanding into healthcare software. He's looking at companies to invest in. Mom mentioned you started something in that area? I didn't respond. She said you've done well. Mom mentioned me? That was new. What exactly are you asking, Lily? Well, she hesitated. Would you maybe consider giving Daniel early access to your software? Maybe even a family discount? It would really help his portfolio before the wedding. Family discount. After 9 years. After silence. After choosing her. You haven't spoken to me in almost a decade, I said evenly. And your first call is about business? That's not fair, as she snapped quickly, then softened her tone again. We were young. Mom handled everything back then. I let the silence sit. Then I said, send me a formal proposal through my office. Her voice lost warmth instantly. You've changed. Yes, I said. I have. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my office. Gold letters. Heavy paper. It was a wedding invitation. Lily Parker and Daniel Brooks request the honor of your presence. The ceremony would be held at Rosewood Estate. 200 guests. Black tie event. Fully funded by our parents. At the bottom, handwritten in blue ink. It would mean a lot if you came. Mom and Dad would love to see you. I almost laughed. Would they? I hadn't been home in 9 years. Not for holidays. Not for birthdays. Not even when I heard my father had minor heart surgery 2 years ago. From a cousin, not from them. Now they would love to see me. Emma walked into my office while I was staring at the invitation. What's that? She asked. My sister's wedding. Her eyes widened. The golden child? Yes. Are you going? I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to throw it away. But another part of me wanted to see them look at me. Not as the weak one. Not as the forgotten one. But as someone they misjudged. I think I will, I said quietly. The wedding day came fast. I chose a simple navy dress. Elegant. Clean. No drama. I didn't want to impress anyone. I wanted to observe. Rosewood Estate looked like something from a movie. White flowers everywhere. Crystal lights hanging from trees. Champagne towers. Expensive cars lined the driveway. I walked in alone. For a moment, no one recognized me. Then my mother turned. She froze. Her smile dropped slightly before she fixed it. Hannah. Just my name. No hug. No tears. You look, well. So do you, I replied politely. My father stood beside her. He looked older. Smaller. He nodded at me. That's good, he said awkwardly. You came. Yes. Lily walked over in her white gown. She was glowing. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. Perfect smile. For a second, we just looked at each other. Then she hugged me lightly, careful not to wrinkle her dress. I'm so glad you're here, she whispered. I couldn't tell if she meant it. Daniel joined us moments later. Tall. Confident. Polished. He extended his hand. You must be Hannah. I've heard about you. I shook his hand. I'm sure you have. His grip tightened slightly. There was something sharp in his eyes. Something calculating. You run clear part systems, right? He asked. Yes. Impressive growth for a small startup. It's not small anymore. He smiled thinly. Of course. There was tension. Subtle. but real. And then I understood something. This wasn't just about a wedding. This was about business. During the reception, I stayed near the back. I listened. I watched. Daniel spoke loudly to investors about a new healthcare tech partnerships. He mentioned software. He mentioned expansion. He mentioned deals that hadn't been signed yet. My stomach tightened. He was describing my product, but slightly differently, as if it were already his. I stepped closer. He laughed with a group of men in suits. One of the smaller companies is basically secured, he said confidently. Just ironing out final numbers. He hadn't secured anything. We never signed. We never agreed. Then it hit me. Lily didn't just call for a discount. They expected control. They expected me to hand it over because we were a family. I felt anger rise in my chest. But I didn't act. Not yet. I waited. The ceremony began at sunset. Soft music. White petals. Smiling guests. Lily walked down the aisle. Everything looked perfect. Until the officiant asked, "If anyone has reason to believe this union should not take place, speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence. The wind moved lightly through the vineyard. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it. His face changed. Color drained. He looked at the screen. Then slowly, he looked at me. Not Lily. Me. Guests began whispering. He swallowed hard. The phone buzzed again. And then he said one word. Fraud. The music stopped. Lily blinked in confusion. What? Daniel stepped back from her. He was pale. What did you do? He asked, not to me. To Lily. And suddenly, the perfect wedding began to crack. For a few seconds after Daniel said a fraud, and no one moved. The wind kept blowing softly through the white flowers. The violin player slowly lowered her bow. Guests looked at each other, confused. Lily let out a small nervous laugh. Daniel, what are you doing? The ceremony is still going. But Daniel wasn't looking at her anymore. He was staring at his phone. Then he looked at me again. My heart was beating fast, but my face stayed calm. What happened? My mother whispered sharply. Daniel stepped away from Lily. I just received an email from my legal team, he said loudly. And from an investor. He looked directly at Lily. You told me your family owned part of ClearPath Systems. The air left my lungs. Lily's face went pale. I never said that, as she stammered. Yes, you did, Daniel said, his voice rising. You told me your sister built it with family funding. You said your parents had equity. Gasps spread through the crowd. My father stood up from his chair. What is he talking about? Daniel turned toward the guests. For the past 6 months, Lily has been telling my investors that her family has early access and partial ownership of a healthcare software company. He pointed toward me. Her sister's company. All eyes turned. Some guests recognized my name now. They whispered. I stepped forward slowly. I have never shared ownership of my company with anyone in my family, I said clearly. And I never signed any partnership agreement. Daniel's jaw tightened. My investors transferred preliminary funds based on that representation. My mother's hand flew to her chest. You used your sister's business, she whispered to Lily. Lily's breathing became uneven. I thought we would fix it before anyone found out, as she said softly. Fix it how? Daniel snapped. She looked at me. That's why I called you, she admitted. The pieces fell into place for everyone at once. She wasn't asking for a discount. She needed proof. She needed my company to make her lie real. You told people we were partners? I asked quietly. Tears filled her eyes. I just needed time. Daniel's investors wanted something solid before the wedding. I thought if you agreed, no one would know. The crowd started whispering louder. Someone in the back pulled out their phone. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. This isn't small, Lily. This is financial misrepresentation. I was going to fix it, as she cried. I just needed Hannah to cooperate. My father looked at me for the first time fully. Hannah, you didn't know? No, I said calmly. I found out right now. Like everyone else. My mother looked like she might faint. Daniel stepped away from the altar completely. I can't do this, he said. Lily grabbed his arm. Please. It's just paperwork. We can correct it. Correct it? He said in disbelief. You built an investment pitch around a lie. Silence again. Heavy. Embarrassing. Public. The officiant quietly stepped aside. Guests began standing up. Some walked away. The perfect wedding was dissolving in real time. Lily turned to me desperately. Please, as she whispered. Just tell them you were considering partnership. I looked at her. For 9 years, I imagined this moment. Not like this. But I imagined standing in front of everyone, finally seen. Finally heard. I could save her. One sentence from me could calm investors. Could soften the damage. All I had to say was, we were in talks. But that would be a lie. And I spent 9 years building something honest. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I can't do that. Her face broke. You're my sister. And you used me, I replied. She stepped back as if I had slapped her. Daniel looked at me for a long moment. Your company is legitimate? He asked carefully. Yes. Fully self-funded and legally independent? Yes. He nodded slowly. Then he turned to Lily. I need space. He walked past her. Past my parents. Past the guests. Straight down the aisle that was meant for their future together. Lily stood frozen at the altar in her white dress. Alone. My mother rushed forward. What have you done? She hissed at Lily. Lily shook her head wildly. I was trying to help Daniel. I was trying to make us look strong. By lying, and my father said, his voice shaking. Guests were leaving now. Quiet conversations. Shocked faces. The wedding planner looked like she wanted to disappear. I felt strange. Not happy. Not satisfied. Just calm. Because the truth didn't need help. It stood on its own. Lily suddenly turned to me again. This is your fault too, she said through tears. If you had just worked with us. No, I interrupted gently. This started when you decided my work belonged to you. Her mouth opened. Then closed. She had no answer. An hour later, the vineyard was nearly empty. Flowers still beautiful. Chairs still perfectly arranged. But no music. No celebration. Just silence and embarrassment. I stood near the exit when my father approached me slowly. He looked older than I remembered. I didn't know, he said quietly. I know, I replied. He swallowed. You built all of that yourself? Yes. Without you, I didn't add. He nodded slowly. There were many things he could have said. I'm sorry. We were wrong. We failed you. But he didn't. He just said, you did well. It wasn't enough. But it was something. My mother didn't come to me. She stayed with Lily, who was sitting in a chair, makeup ruined, staring at nothing. For the first time in her life, she wasn't the shining one. She was just human. As I walked toward the parking lot, Daniel caught up to me. Wait. I turned. He looked tired now. Less polished. I owe you an apology, he said. I should have verified everything earlier. You trusted someone you loved, I replied. He gave a small, bitter smile. I'm not sure I know who I loved anymore. We stood quietly for a moment. My investors will contact you formally, he said. Not because of Lily. Because your product is strong. I studied his face carefully. No special treatment, I said. Of course not. Then he added softly, you handled that with dignity. I nodded once. Good luck, I said. And I walked away. That night, I drove back to my hotel alone. I expected to cry. I didn't. Instead, I felt lighter. For years, I carried the weight of being unwanted. Less valued. Less supported. But standing there today, in front of everyone, I realized something simple. I was never less. I was just never chosen. And sometimes, not being chosen saves you. The morning after the wedding, my phone would not stop ringing. I turned it face down on the hotel table and tried to breathe. Sunlight came through the curtains. It looked like any normal day. But it wasn't. By 9 a.m., 3 business blogs had posted short articles. Wedding scandal reveals investment misrepresentation. Healthcare startup linked to broken engagement. They didn't mention every detail, but they mentioned enough. ClearPath Systems. My name. Daniel Brooks. Investors. Fraud concerns. I closed my eyes. I had worked 9 years to build something clean and respected. And in one evening, my company was dragged into gossip. My chest tightened, not because I had done anything wrong, but because reputation is fragile. I called my legal advisor immediately. Are we exposed? I asked. No, she said firmly. You're not involved. There's no signed agreement. No emails from your side promising partnership. You're safe. Safe. The word felt strange. I had learned long ago not to depend on safety. By noon, Daniel emailed formally. Professional tone. Clear subject line. Request for official meeting, independent of personal matters. I appreciated that. He didn't mention Lily. He didn't apologize again. Just business. I replied with one sentence. Send your team Tuesday at 10 a.m. No emotion. No history. Only work. At 2 p.m., my mother called. I almost didn't answer. But something inside me said this moment mattered. I picked up. Hannah. Her voice sounded smaller than I had ever heard it. Yes. There was no anger in me now. Just distance. I didn't know she had said those things, as she said quickly. Your father and I had no idea. I believe you. Silence. Then she asked the question she probably rehearsed all morning. Why didn't you tell us how successful you became? I almost laughed. You never asked. She inhaled sharply. That's not fair. No, I said gently. What happened 9 years ago wasn't fair either. She didn't argue. For the first time in my life, she didn't defend herself. I thought you would come back, she said quietly. After some time. I thought you would apologize. For what? For leaving. I closed my eyes. I left because you told me to pay for my own future while you paid for Lily's. That was different, she whispered. It always was. Another long silence. Then she asked something I never expected. Are you happy? The question surprised me. I thought carefully before answering. Yes, I said honestly. I'm tired sometimes. I work too much. But yes. I'm proud of my life. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't think Lily is. I didn't respond. Because that wasn't my responsibility. Later that evening, Lily texted me. Not a call. Not a long message. Just. I never meant for it to go this far. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied. It went this far because you thought you could use me. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Finally, she sent. I was scared he wouldn't marry me if I didn't prove I brought value. That sentence stayed with me. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because I understood it. Our whole lives, we were taught something without anyone saying it directly. Lily had to shine. I had to survive. She learned her worth came from appearance. I learned mine came from effort. And now both of us were living with the results. Tuesday morning came. Daniel arrived with 2 legal advisors and 1 investor. No mention of the wedding. No mention of Lily. Only data, numbers, projections. We spoke for 2 hours. At the end, his investor leaned back and said, "This is stronger than what we were shown." Daniel nodded once. "Yes. It is." I looked him directly in the eyes. "If we move forward, it will be equal partnership. No shortcuts. No family influence." "Agreed," he said. And that was it. No emotion. Just clarity. 3 weeks later, the news cycle moved on. The wedding scandal became old gossip. ClearPath Systems signed a legitimate investment deal, structured carefully, legally clean. Our company doubled in value within 6 months. And for the first time, my parents saw my success not as competition, but as reality. My father invited me for coffee. Just the 2 of us. We met at a small cafe halfway between our towns. He looked nervous. I should have said something back then, he admitted quietly. Yes, I said. I thought keeping peace in the house was more important. It wasn't peace, I replied gently. It was silence. He nodded slowly. You were always strong, he said. I shook my head. No. I was just alone. That hit him. I saw it in his eyes. For the first time, he understood the difference. Lily didn't come to that meeting. She had moved out of our parents' house. The engagement officially ended 2 months after the wedding. There were legal consequences, mostly financial penalties and damaged reputation. Nothing criminal, but enough to hurt. She started seeing a therapist. I know that because my mother told me. She says she doesn't know who she is without trying to impress someone, a mum said quietly one afternoon. That made me sad. Not because she lost Daniel, but because she never built herself. One evening, months later, Lily asked to meet me. Just us. No parents. No wedding dress. No investors. We met at a quiet park. She looked different. Less polished. More real. I'm sorry, she said immediately. No excuses. No blaming. Just that. I studied her carefully. Are you sorry because it failed? I asked calmly. Or because it was wrong? She didn't answer quickly. That mattered. Because it was wrong, she finally said. Her voice was steady. That mattered too. We sat in silence for a while. I spent my whole life thinking you were lucky, she admitted softly. I almost smiled. Lucky? You didn't have expectations. You didn't have pressure to be perfect. I looked at her. You had support, I said. I had pressure too. Just a different kind. She nodded slowly. I see that now. That didn't fix everything. But it opened something. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's a slow decision. I didn't suddenly trust her. I didn't suddenly forget. But I stopped carrying anger. Because anger keeps you connected to pain. And I had worked too hard to build a peaceful life. A year later, ClearPath Systems expanded nationally. We hired over 120 employees. I bought a modest house. Not large. Not flashy. Just mine. One evening, I stood in my kitchen, holding a cup of tea, watching the sunset through my own window. No one could take this from me. No one funded it. No one gifted it. It was built with tired nights, cracked hands, and quiet strength. And suddenly, I felt grateful. Not for the rejection. Not for the unfairness. But for what it forced me to become. Strong, yes. But also steady. Confident. Independent. Sometimes people ask me if I regret going to the wedding. I don't. Because that day didn't destroy my sister. It revealed her. And it revealed me too. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I wasn't the quiet one at the back of the table. I was the woman who walked away when it was wrong. And stood firm when it mattered. And that is worth more than any tuition check. After the wedding scandal, life did not magically become perfect. Lily started therapy. At first, she went because her mother insisted. Later, she continued because she wanted to. For the first time in her life, she worked a normal job, no family connections, no special introductions. She joined a small marketing firm as a junior assistant. No one there cared who her parents were. It was hard for her. She called me one evening and said, I don't know how you did this alone. I answered honestly. I didn't have another option. Our conversations slowly became more real. Not about money. Not about status. Just about life. Meanwhile, ClearPath Systems kept growing. The partnership with Daniel's firm remained strictly professional. We respected each other, but nothing more. My parents started visiting my office sometimes. They looked proud, but also guilty. One afternoon, my mother said quietly, we pushed you away because we thought you didn't need us. I replied, every child needs their parents. Even the strong ones. That sentence stayed with her. Healing didn't happen overnight. But the silence between us slowly became conversations. 5 years passed. ClearPath Systems became one of the most trusted healthcare software companies in the region. We expanded internationally. I now led a team of over 300 people. But success was no longer about proving anything. It was about building something meaningful. Lily eventually started her own small consulting service. Honestly, this time. No exaggeration. No borrowed reputation. She built it slowly. One Sunday afternoon, our family sat together at my house for dinner. Not a perfect family, but a real one. There were no comparisons. No favorites. Just people who had made mistakes and learned. After dinner, Lily and I stood in the kitchen alone. "Do you ever wish things had been different?" She asked. "Yes," I said. "But if they were different, I wouldn't be who I am." She nodded. "I'm glad you didn't save me that day," she admitted softly. "I needed to fall." I looked at her and finally felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Sometimes the child who is not chosen becomes the strongest adult. Sometimes rejection builds independence. And sometimes the worst day of your life becomes the day everything changes. I was never the favorite. But I became the foundation. And that was enough.